Bang, bang. Facebook, family, and friends, everyone else who's joining us on YouTube. Welcome to the show. You know what it is. It's Farmers Anonymous, Sammy Wrangle, and me. Uh, Sunday mornings. We are late this morning. I apologize. Sammy had a bunch of stuff to do. We're running a little bit behind. We are going to have a shortened show today. So it'll be about half hour, 40 minutes. Let's welcome Sammy into the room. What's going on, my brother from another mother?
What it be? What it be, y'all?
What it
Here we
is, what
are.
it was, what it be like.
Sunday morning. I don't know. What's your weather like? You guys got snow still, or is it sunny?
It is sunny today. It's all right. It's supposed to hit
Do
like 40s or 50s today.
do you have
So
sun? I mean, do you have snow still?
we have a little bit here or there, but for the most part, it's all gone. How's the flooding down there, bro?
Listen,
The
listen. It's great. The birds love it. Our
birds love
ducks
it.
and geese love it. They're everywhere. You gotta be more
Oh
like
man,
birds. You gotta be more like birds. Just go with the weather,
right, right. How's your day going?
dude. It's going, man. I've been up and at it. I don't really sleep in that much anymore, so you got pets and animals. Hey, mama. Oh, I'm on a face call. Oh, no. I was laughing. I'm
Was that a
I'm getting
naked woman in the background of your?
no. There's not a naked woman in the background.
I would hope so because we are a definite mixed show here. Like we have some young people who watch. We don't want to influence their. Hey, listen. Most weeks I see a moose, so
I don't know where he's at. He's probably just on the couch at this point. So
uh,
today we are talking about it's under the umbrella of personal responsibility. Good morning, Amy. Amy
morning,
saved the best
Amy.
for last. She saved the best for last. Put a heart by my name, but not yours. Um, Thank you, Amy. I appreciate that.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just
Um,
take your shot.
Look, this might sound like an easy question, right? And I think it's I think there are some standard things, components that need to be a part of what we're going to talk about, but I think it's going to be one of those very subjective topics that people are just going to say, well, my version of this is this, right? And so we're talking about, at what point do you remember in your journey up until this point, whether you're day one or been at it, as long as we have or longer, at what point do you remember taking personal responsibility for your change, for your recovery, right? And you remember, we at Formers, we have to talk about change hand in hand with recovery. And remember, don't forget, one of the fundamental reasons we talk about change and we might not talk about recovery with someone individual is because some people don't want to subscribe to the recovery model for a lot of good reasons, right? There's a lot of reasons why somebody might not. They have valid reasons. So, but we can all identify with change because change happens. And under whatever umbrella you want to put it in, right? Like change is at the crux of it. And recovery for me is like a part of the process that allows us to kind of put it in an order that helps us. It's like packing your lunchbox organized, right? You know where
Yeah,
everything's at. You put your sandwich in a bag, your bag of chips, your apple, your little juicy juice, right? Your little Oreo, one or two Oreos. You just lunch. You got to have it packed up nice and neat.
right.
So when you go to work or you pull out your apple, you get it all. And that could just be me. I might be OCD. That's just how I would pack a lunch if I was
Just a little
packing
bit.
lunch. Now, the point of this is we always are pushing here, and I think this is our theme, so any of our listeners would know. We're always pushing this idea that there needs to be structure. The reason I think there needs to be structure is because a lot of us mistake a process with structure for one in which we are simply winging it. How many folks do you know wing it, right? And this couldn't be any more important, like the work we're going to engage in to get our lives together for our sakes and the sake of others. There's not a more important mission. But yet, so many people underestimate the value of the structure. We fight the structure. We even try to simplify. What, a couple weeks ago, we were talking about hacks, like how to hack recovery, because that's what we're looking
Yeah.
for. Right? What's the easiest, quickest way to get a result? Good morning, Linda.
Morning, sis. Love you, babe.
We're looking for ways to beat the system.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if that's fair. It's to hack the system, to when you play a game, do you literally try to complete 100% of each level, or do you just try to get through it? There are different folks for that, right? Like there are some folks who are going to find every gem on any level before they decide to move forward because they want that, right? So, and others like me, I just want to get to the end of the game.
I'm both. So I just got done playing a game, Assassin's Creed Origins, and I did the same thing, right? I rushed through, I beat the game. Now I went back to the beginning and I'm doing every single mission, every single, side piece, every little treasure that I can get. I want to do everything.
Why? And why?
Because I enjoyed the game so much, I wanted to see everything, right? Like I want to explore everything about this game that there is, and I want to get every achievement that I can get in that game. I want to.
Why?
I don't know. I never really thought about it.
Because you start to value the experience of having the full experience.
Okay.
Right? Like I think like there's like a sense of accomplishment in going back and understanding the minute details.
Right.
Right. I've played Assassin's Creed, and I think it's almost impossible to find every achievement.
Everything. Yeah.
It's almost like a glitch in the game, or it's they're psych, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But I think we just stumbled on how we talk about recovery, right? A lot of people try to go through it really fast. Let's just get through it. Okay, this is what I have to do. This is what I'm told to do. This is what I should do. And then at some point, if you stick with it long enough, you're like, wait a minute. This is actually better than I thought.
Yeah.
My life is still a shit show, but I'm doing better. I'm doing better, right? I'm feeling better.
Right.
I'm handling things better. What else is there? And I think a lot of times because our understanding gets clearer and we have more insight, we start to realize there might be more value here than I thought. Right? We do put a lot of emphasis on the first 3 steps, because the first 3 steps are really about this discovery of self-awareness. It's really like I thought I knew myself until I reached this breaking point. And now that I've reached this breaking point and I've accepted that I'm at a breaking point, I'm finding out things about myself that I don't necessarily like.
So
the failure.
On that topic, when I had to come to terms with the responsibility I held for my situation, I was still in prison, right? And it did a lot, and it's terrifying, bro. It did a lot of things to me. First off, when I first understood and took responsibility for me being there, it was heartbreaking, right? It was crushing. I had to accept the fact that I placed myself in a position to abandon everybody I love, right? My kids, my family, my friends, that it was my fault that I was where I was at. And that's a terrifying thing to face, especially when you're alone in a cage already, right? Like I'm already in a zoo, right? I'm already living in a cage. I spent the last, 9.5 years blaming the world for me being there, right? And then it came to the point where I had to sit there and think, wait a minute, like I'm here because I made choices, right? For me, taking that step was horrifying. Like it was hard, bro. It was hard and it was painful.
It's because in many ways it's because what we are discovering is that everything we try to avoid and deny related to the pain and suffering that we were experiencing and causing doesn't go away. It doesn't disappear because you avoid it. It actually is just mounting and waiting. And eventually we have to face it. And that in and of itself is daunting, right? It's like, it's the analogy that I use where we have to eat our teaspoon of shit every day, but the kind of lives that we've lived is all about avoiding eating that teaspoon of shit, right?
Right.
And so we think we've gotten away from it. So I don't know if you remember Captain Gayro.
Yeah.
Or Captain Gayro. She was vicious, right?
Yeah.
She gave me probably about 7 years worth of adjustment seg. Now, for those people who don't know what that is, there are two types of seg. There's adjustment and then there's program. An adjustment can last no longer than 8-day cycles, right? They can't keep you. They're legally, Supreme Court has ruled, you cannot be held under the conditions of adjustment seg longer than 8 consecutive days.
Right.
Programmatically, they can hold you, they can confine you up to 360 days per infraction on program seg. And so normally what they would do is give you adjustment seg first and then program seg. So they would say, for the offense of fighting, you're going to get 5 days adjustment and 90 days program for a total of 95 days. And then you do 5 days in adjustment, which essentially means they're not going to give you more than they are legally required to put in your cell. So clothes, shelter, blankets, you may or may, you can't get any visits. You may or may not get property of any kind, maybe soap and water, stuff like that. But after the adjustment, now you can start earning your other property, books, radios, TVs, if they allow that stuff in the institution, rec, things like that, right? You get more privileges even though you're still in the hole, in confinement. Gayro, I was getting so many tickets. They actually stopped taking me my hearings. They were just writing the tickets and then like publishing a finding. I had 7 years of adjustment, right? So check this out. I get shipped out of that prison and they send me to a treatment site. And as long as I don't go, as long as I'm behaving, I got dismissed. All my segregation time was wiped away because I completed treatment. Well, naturally, I get in trouble and I end up back in Waupun. But I'm not in the hole. Guess who came and got me and put me back in the hole to finish my 7 years adjustment? Right. Now, remember, 7 years of adjustment. Think of how many infractions that adds up to, because you have to divide that number by 8. So how many? Let me do the math here. How many days? Hey Google, how many days are in 7 years?
7 years is equivalent to 2,555 days.
It's a lot of days. So I'm going to say, so 2,555 divided by 8. That is almost 320 different infractions given 8 days adjustment. And here's what they would do. Remember, they can't keep you. They're not supposed to. They do. They keep people in adjustment forever fucking long they want. But yeah, when you're a budding, prison attorney, they know how to circumvent the law. So
yeah,
they would give you like an item, they'd give you like a book, and then take it back after 24 hours, and then you do another 8 days. So why did I tell that story? Because that's that teaspoon of shit you avoided all this time, and it just catches up with you, right? We talk about this in the pillars. You cannot outrun your issues, your fears, your trauma, because they run faster than you do. They'll always catch up to you, right? And so eventually, you have to face it. The only way through your trauma is facing your trauma. The only way through the pile of shit is by eating it, right? So here we are, me and you today, Monte. We're eating our teaspoon of shit like everybody else has to, but we're still using a front end loader to work through the pile. In addition to that one, we're getting our truckload of shit every day,
right?
Trying to eat it to catch up, but we can't catch up because it's just too much shit.
Yeah, it It is.
Amy said, I knew when I got the second OW9 and I realized I was looking at jail time. I might not be there for my 17-year-old. Yeah. You know, but so personal responsibility, it will come differently for everyone. But most of the time, what precedes it for all of us is an awareness, a new awareness, like a new awakening to like the harm and damage we've caused ourselves and others. It's like as something happens, sometimes it can be a major event, like I'm going to jail, my wife or husband is leaving me, I lost my job, lost my home. Like it can often be those kinds of things, but sometimes it's depression. You know, you wake up one day and you realize you're completely isolated, you know, living behind walls, lonely, even though you're in a crowd of people, right? Like, who knows? It could be so much, but the idea that we have to take responsibility. So this awareness, like that Amy's talking about, that we wake up and we're like, holy shit, how did I get here?
Yeah.
You know, how did I become the one thing I said I wouldn't? That's what happened to me. I thought I was very different.
Right.
From my mom, from others. Like I knew I was better than my mom. I knew I was better than her brother who did all that shit to me and my sister. Like I just knew in my heart I was better. And that was all the justification I needed. Because like as long as I'm not like that. But
Right.
What did you say? Which hit me later, which is I wasn't there for my kids. Now I knew that all these fucking years, so how come it didn't hit me sooner? Well, you know, karma, what I've learned about karma, and I'm not a karma illusionist or whatever karmaologist, but I think there's some wisdom.
Karmaologist.
I don't know what it's called. Yes. But I think there's some truth to the karma thing because I do believe in manifestation. But when karma basically says you'll continue to repeat this life until you, one, learn your lesson about what you're supposed to be learning, whatever your unique lesson is, and until you atone.
Yeah.
Like, right? And so you have to learn the lesson, and then you got to be like, oh shit, I'm sorry. And then go out like trying to live that evidence out of your apology, right? Like that is something that is unique to me where I try to express my apology through my actions because I learned that I had apologized so much my words didn't mean shit to anyone. So I had to start demonstrating it, right? Like lashing myself, so to speak.
Walking that apology.
Yes, you know,
Walking, I'm sorry.
But here's what I learned about that. I think we should all go through that, by the way. Carry your cross, you know, carry your fucking cross from point A to point B or however many miles apart that is, right?
And that's so fucking humbling.
But at some point, your motivation has to change. And if for no other reason, I have a lot of reasons why I think that has to happen, but let me tell you why. When and if you only live in this idea that you have to live out this apology, it brings depression or like depression energy into all your interactions with other people. Because the energy that's driving you is remorse, shame, guilt. And while those are important for men like me and you to experience that, right? Because we've avoided that all so much, right? Like we had no shame, we had no guilt, and we certainly had no remorse.
Right.
For the harm we did to ourselves and others, including our own families. Now, I'm thinking I'm better than my mom. My mom's number one crime was what she did to her children. Yeah, I might not be beating the shit out of my kids like my mom did to me, but look at what I've done. And is it any better? In one life, I said, yeah, it's way better because I'm not putting my hands on. But what I didn't realize is that by not being there for my kids, I might as well have been. And the consequences in many ways were even worse because now my son lives like I do. He's in prison. You know, and so it's like, you realize like you're actually no fucking better. You're no different. the pain I caused him is the pain my mom caused me, and it's abandonment. The physical harm was there, but it was really the abandonment, because you realize nobody who loves you does this to you, so they
Yeah.
must not love me. And that's the one thing you're looking for from your family is love.
Yeah.
And your presence is equal to your physical treatment, you know.
They did a study of former gang members, and I don't know if you know it. I'm sure you've read it, but they did a study of former gang members, and that was the number one reason why they said they had joined a gang was they felt loved with inside that circle of people.
I didn't join a gang. Like literally, I didn't say I'm 11. I want to join a gang. That's not what went through my head. What these were the first people to fucking surround me and do two things. They said what they're doing to you is fucked up. So finally, somebody said, "Yeah, that's fucked up, bro."
Right.
Like, you know. And then they were like, "You have a place with us." There are some rules. There are some rules, but those rules actually were better than any rules I had at home, because there were no rules at home. There was no up or down at home. You didn't know where it was coming from. If I was going to get violation, at least I understood what I did wrong. You know, maybe I could accept that. Yeah, there's something I did here. I need to pay the price for. At home, I wasn't doing anything. And how was I going to survive on the streets without breaking rules? I didn't know I didn't know the rules of the street.
Right.
Dude, when I went to prison at 17, I had the biggest fucking mouth on me. Scrawny, couldn't fight very well. You know, I was a fighter, but I always got hurt and cut.
Yeah.
And fucking, you know, I wasn't Vin Diesel, 500 fights. That wasn't me at 17.
Right.
But I had a mouth like that. And so, you know, I'm calling other heads, you know, bitches, and like,
right.
I didn't know, you know, and to just start walking in a room and they're like, "Hey, dude, you disrespected a chief, man." But I'm like, he's an op. It don't matter. You can't do that. I'm like, oh, and then, you know, they send 3 brothers in there, and if you're lucky, you can cover up.
If you're lucky.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I remember my friends used to call the GDs used to put them in full Nelsons and call them GD glasses.
Yep.
Dude comes out like, holy
Pumpkinhead.
Dude. Oh man. So we're not off track here. This all ties in. We go from no self-awareness somehow to an awakening of self-awareness that says, like Amy did, you know, I ran into this wall again, and then this time I'm in the right place, the dominoes are falling in the right way, the stars align, and poof, my mind opens up to accept that I am screwing up beyond measure, beyond any measure that I was ever aware of. Did I know what I was doing was wrong? I would have to say, to the best of my ability, yes. But in this state of mind that I'm in today, I realized I didn't know how wrong I was. So there are degrees to this awareness. Step 1 is the first degree of awareness. And why do most people drop out by step 4, Monte?
Well, there's a bunch of reasons why. What's going on with my camera? Sorry.
I don't know. You look like you're vibing.
Yeah. Am I coming through clearly?
Yeah. You're coming through clear.
Oh, go ahead.
Just so there is some research behind this. The number one reason, and not the only reason, like you're pointing out, is it's the reason when most people start taking the lid off of the can of worms. Right. And that's why I changed fundamentally the way we approach step 4, because we don't want to keep losing folks. Right. But the research shows it's at step 4 where you have to jump into the whole pile of shit and start working through it. Right. Because the only way through trauma is through trauma.
Right.
Right. Working through the trauma. not around it. You got to work through it, right? But we're lay people. So why are we helping people go through that? Like we shouldn't be, right? Like there are professionals and we need to learn to trust them again, right? And find some trustworthy ones because not all of them are trustworthy. I get it. But it's when we start realizing, because step one, you realize some massive glaring mistakes that everyone has been able to see. Now, here's the other side of this one. Amy, tell me, how many people already knew that this light bulb was on, but it's only now just come on for you? How many people knew how fucked up you actually were before you knew how fucked up you actually were? What percentage of people in your life? What percentage of people in your life already knew? I can tell you, Violetta. I don't know if you've met Violetta. I think you might have at my house one time.
Yeah.
For my birthday. Violetta's my oldest friend. She saw me in the streets. She saw me out there with multiple girls on one day. Like she saw it all. That poor woman saw me at my worst, right? And she barely talked to me because she was like, this dude is a mess. And the whole time I was in prison, I know you got somebody like this in your life. The whole time I was in prison, my best friend, she loves me to death, did a lot for me and still doing for me. She routinely said, Sammy, I hope they never let you out. Now, for someone who loves you to say that to you, it isn't because they're being mean. It's because they know, like, you're out of control, son. Like, you're a danger to yourself and to others. And I'm like, you're the one who's sleeping. Like, you're asleep. I actually told her that one day. You're the one who, like, I'm the only one who sees the world for the way the world is. You are asleep. You're in denial. I gave it to her and she just took it and she's like, you got it wrong, my friend. Yeah.
They were smarter than we were.
And how many times did you leave the house going to go do something and somebody said to you, please don't go? Like they could see what was coming and we were, in some ways we could too, but we just didn't have enough insight to care enough. We thought we could beat it or handle it. That's why we do the shit we do. We think we can beat the system or handle the system. And then we don't realize there's a bunch of consequences that we didn't know about.
Yeah.
Right? Like the price I was willing to pay is the price I was willing to pay based on what I understood about the price. But there are all these accessories. Like, so I went to Harbor Freight yesterday to buy a battery-powered shears.
Mm-hmm.
The tool is $39. Oh, I'm like, oh, this is great. And then I read the box. It says tool only.
Right.
I'm like, oh, okay. I got to go buy the battery. So let me hop over to the battery.
99.
The battery is more than the tool. But wait, there's more. You also got to buy the charger, which is separate. Dude, it was going to be like $140 for the battery operated shears if I wanted to use a battery, which I needed, and a charger. And I'm like, you sons of bitches. Like, I just came back home dejected. I'm like, I'm not buying that for.
Right.
But you think you understand the price, right? Like Amy's saying, I thought I could handle it. And so we do it. And then we realize, man, there's a lot more shit. That's why guys who come home and say, I did my time, are still not aware. They still haven't learned. That was only one part of it. That's one line item on the receipt for what you actually bought.
Right.
You know what I mean? You go to Walmart planning to spend $30, $200 later, you got the item for $30, but you have $170 other dollars worth of things on there that you weren't aware were going to be on that receipt. That's the shit. Did I know my son was going to be in prison as much as me? No. Today, could I have predicted that? Yes. I thought, I'm paying the price. I'm the only one paying this price. I didn't realize the price that everyone else was paying with me. And that was a bitter pill. I think we all recognize that at some point, man. You know how many men have cried because they told me I stole my kids' Christmas presents to get out. Like that's some shit that'll live with you fucking forever. You know, or I know people have killed people they love by accident. You know,
Yeah.
personal responsibility is going to come in a lot of shapes and sizes, different experiences, but it's at what point and what should it take, right? So, like we were talking about the levels of the game, you can beat certain levels, you can get by, rush through it, but you're really not getting the whole substance of what you're trying to do. Which is why I'm like, Monta, this is really the secret behind why I don't think it's as big of a milestone as we make it. Although it's a big one, I don't know that it's as important of a milestone compared to another one about how long we've been home. Because yeah, that matters. That's we should celebrate that. You know, like that's an achievement. I'm more interested in what you've done. You know, if you measure your success by the length of time, okay, but what value have you brought? Have you gained? That's really what's important to me. I want to know more about you, you know, because that tells me how strong your sense of responsibility is. It tells me how strong. I mean, a lot of guys getting out of prison measure their success by how long they stay out of jail.
And I think in the beginning, that's okay. For some people, that is a benchmark,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
And I was that guy, right? That was me in the beginning. It was really important to me. And it's still semi-important to me, right? Like I made it 10 years, 10 plus years now, right? Great. But there was a point where I stopped caring as much about that and started caring more about what I was accomplishing, right? Like what other benchmarks am I hitting? Like,
Yes.
absolutely.
That's kind of like what we were talking about the last time we were on here. You know, like if I'm celebrating clean time, that's critical. That's important. That's a mile marker. But what else is buried in there that has great value to you?
Yeah.
Right. Because I think I do think it's a currency, right? It's like an investment. Time is an investment, but you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. So where else can you celebrate in those moments? Because I think it comes with personal responsibility. When you can recognize all the work you have to do and that you've been doing and that has to continue, that's a good mile marker because it says, I know what direction I'm heading in.
Yeah,
You
most
know,
definitely.
I know what direction I'm heading in. I know who I'm becoming. I know what I want to become. I know what I've done up to this point. Right? That's why we talk about formers the way we do. It tells me who I am, or who I was. I'm sharing with myself and with others who I was. You know, I've been there and done that. I've done these things. I just want to be honest and transparent. But it also means that right here, right now, I'm working on myself and I'm trying to change from that. And the future part is, but while I'm trying to change from that, I'm also trying to become this.
Right.
So you talk about 3 different time elements, right? Past, present, and future, which I think are critical for identifying who you are, because you're never just an addict in my book. You're never just an alcoholic. You're a person who lives with that stuff. You struggle with that stuff. You might be diagnosed with an addiction. You might be diagnosed with alcoholism. But that is not who you are. You're not cancer itself.
Right.
You know, you're not the disease itself. But as a former, you're recognizing I have this struggle. I live with this disease, this ailment, this diagnosis. I'm working on it right now, which means you're not exactly the same person stuck in the past. Now, right here, you're trying to get out of that. And you're developing momentum. You're moving forward, but you have your eyes on the prize, which is at some point, I will find redemption in some way.
That was an
You
eye
know?
opener for me when when we were in a group and you were talking and you said, listen, you don't go into a cancer ward and have some kid walk up to you and say, hi, I'm lymphoma, right? Like
Yeah.
changing my mindset about who I was, even as someone who was addicted to a criminal thought process, right? Like it wasn't even a substance I could identify. It was the whole lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
To be able to say I'm more than that. Like that's just an aspect of me. When we talked about when do we get to identify as fathers, as community members, as sons, as uncles, as friends, as all those other parts of our psyche and our id, right? Like when we
Of your
can identify as
identity,
that. That was
right?
life
Like
changing.
identity is important. That's why, look, think about your identity, right? I'm saying you are human, not a disease, but you're not free from the disease,
Right.
right? But you are a human, right? You follow me? Like you're human. That's identity, which is why I'm trying to get people to see more than just the things that they do as a part of who they are.
Yeah.
So I haven't been to jail in 90 days. I know that that's important in the beginning, but at some point I want you, and throughout, right? It's never not important, but I want to get your focus away from the things you do to focus on who you are. Because what you do is not who you are. Who you are comes from the inside. Think of this, man. If we had to be free, how do men in prison survive?
Yeah.
Right? Because
And
you know
women.
who, I don't know if you ever met Eddie Belmaris, but Eddie said,
Yeah, I've known Eddie for years.
right? Eddie says, what are you doing for lifers? Right? He's like, because he said, I didn't agree with him, but he was saying, like, can your messaging be tailored to lifers more? And I said, Eddie, it is. Like, there's no new condition I have to write about because it doesn't matter where you are when you do these things.
Right.
Your environment isn't what makes you. Like you
I
have
agree.
to find freedom within yourself when you're in recovery, not outside of yourself. You can still be all these things in prison if you have no chance to get out, right? Just like you can. This is an important message for people who are in shitty situations who can't get out of them, who are in the free world. Like you don't have. What did Songbird say on America's Got Talent or something like that? She said you don't have to wait to be problem free before you can be happy.
Right.
Think of that. You don't have to be free from your problems in order to be happy. That's the mindset, right? That's what recovery is trying to say. Why do you think I said my life is still shitty, but I am finding some value in being in recovery?
Yeah.
Because I can't wait for everything to be perfect, man. I can still do that. For me, that's my personal angle on responsibilities. Like,
I mean, in reality, nothing will ever be perfect. We're always going to have some kind of issue. We're always going to have some kind of problem to deal with. We're always going to have some kind of pain. I mean, that's just life, and the dichotomy of happiness and living, right? Like they're separate entities. Like you're going to be alive until you're dead. Right? Fuck can you do about it? You're going to be alive till you're dead.
yes.
Right? But until then, it's like you can control whether or not you allow yourself to be happy. Right? Like giving myself permission to be happy. Giving myself permission to take a second to enjoy just walking outside and feeling the sun on my face or seeing stars.
We can replace happiness with any word that makes sense to people. Because I think for me, I need to have peace.
Mm-hmm.
I think peace is what I search for most. And I think in that peace, I will find contentment. In that peace, I will find my gratitude. In that peace, I will find my humility. And it's hard to have peace when you're always under attack. So it becomes a certain kind of exercise and discipline to remember to have peace in the middle of the battle, right? There's this guy, I have his book. He wrote a book called Strawberry Wisdom. It's like Eastern logic, right? And he tells the story how he was being chased by two lions or tigers. And so one tiger, he's on a cliff and one tiger is charging him. And so he starts climbing down the cliff. The second tiger is at the bottom of the cliff. And so he's trapped now in between two tigers on the side of this mountain. Right? He's got one above him, one below him. Can't escape. And as he's looking around for his escape, he saw a strawberry bush right next to him. And so he ate the strawberry, and it was the best strawberry he had. And that's how the sonnet ends.
Yeah, I dig it.
Right?
I dig it.
That's my life, man.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like every day.
Yeah.
And personal responsibility, I think, boils down to that right there.
Eating the strawberry.
I mean, it's never been easy out here, man. But it's never been as hard as I thought, and it's never been as easy as I thought.
Why do you think it's so hard for addicts to accept that there's going to be pain in life? Because I know that's what we avoid, right? Most addictions stem from a desire to feel painless, pain-free, happy, perfect. Like everything's perfect. And we alter our reality, right? With drugs or behavioral acts that make us feel like we're okay. Why is that so hard for us?
Well, if you're talking, I have to be clear about this. If you're talking about why it's hard after addiction has taken root, I could ask you, I think one way I can help you understand that is, why is being nonviolent so hard for me and you? Right? It's so hard for me and you because we know what it tastes like. We've tasted that strawberry.
Yeah.
And you'll always, now that you've tasted it, you can't untaste it. For folks who aren't like me and you, I don't know how well they'll relate to this, but, and by me and you, I mean like who've used violence as a number one measure of success in the world, right? Of control in the world. Once you've used that kind of violence, there are benefits to being that powerful with violence. Like violence, the more power and control you had in life, right? And that was real in real time. We just didn't recognize all the full weight of what we were doing at the time, like causing the ripples we would have to still live with today. But it's like, I never trust a dog after it bites someone because it crossed that threshold. When you cross the threshold, you're always going to feel the pull back to cross that line again. And what recovery helps us do is resist that. And, here I am a couple decades into my recovery. The pull doesn't feel as strong as it did in the beginning, but it's still there sometimes.
Yeah.
And momentarily, it's super strong at different times, right? I think when you have been pain-free, before, you'll always want to be pain-free later because you cannot not remember what it's like.
I was talking to a doctor. It was my surgeon when I had my right shoulder repaired. And he was really great. Like they overprescribed me painkillers. And one of the things he said is, now listen, when it comes to, if you use these painkillers like this, right? Like we're telling you you're supposed to use them. When it comes to the end, and you stop taking them, you're going to feel all these other pains that you didn't notice you had before. And that's why people continue to take them when they shouldn't, right? So, like, that was I love him. My surgeon's a
There's
great
another
guy.
step to that, though. It's
Yeah.
even more devious than that. So that happens, but then your body will create ghost pains to try to evoke the activity or the behavior to get what it needs to soothe itself. So it starts to create these phantom pains, right? So like let's say on a scale of 1 to 10 you have anxiety and it's always at a 5 when you have it. So then you take medicine to deal with the anxiety to get it down to a 1 or a 2, right? Now, as you do that, there's a couple of things that are happening. One, you are reducing your body's ability to handle that anxiety on its own. So it doesn't work as hard to soothe itself because it has this chemical assistance to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do it long enough, your body will become dependent, like you were just describing, on the medicine, right? So now you're trying to get clean off your meds, but you still have anxiety. So now you stop. Now your anxiety is still at a 5, like it's always been. But because your body was dependent on chemicals to soothe itself, it has lost or reduced whatever ability it did have, right, to soothe it. And so now your 5, which is still a 5, feels like a 7.
Right.
Because your body, it's like when you don't work out, your muscles lose strength, right? You can't get, a year later, you're not going to be at your 400-pound bench. You're not.
Right.
I don't care how strong you were a year ago. If you don't work out, you will lose that. But is that still within you? Yes. But how long and how hard is it to get back? But here's why I talk about relapse being a springboard, not just a cement slab you land on. Because you've been there before, you've benched 400 before. To get back to 400 doesn't take nearly as long as it did before you ever could do that. So it's very similar in recovery, where in the beginning you're so irritable and so irritated because your body has lost its own ability to fix itself. Pain management is the same way. When you take meds, first of all, your body can do the same thing that those codeine pills can do.
Yep.
But we don't let it. And so we don't exercise that muscle. And so we basically lose our own ability to manage our own pain.
Yeah.
And so at some point when you decide to clean up, it feels a lot worse because in some ways it is because we're now dealing with the consequences of not building the muscle of managing our own pain. We're going to have to start from a lower level of soothing and work through more pain than normally until we develop the tolerance to manage the pain differently.
Man.
Right? It's savage, man. Your body basically starts to eat itself to get you to trigger what it wants. That's why we're dealing with the inside stuff. And it's not just substances, because we've learned to trigger adrenaline and other chemicals within our body with actions like that too. And so that's why we crave. Why do you think the number one fear for thugs, killers, these gangsters, you know what their number one fear is fucking boredom.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, it's not even a joke, right? It's boredom. They're like, I need this feeling all the time, and how am I going to get that other than through this way, right? If we learn to trigger those deep emotions, man, those trigger chemicals, we get high on it. Dude, when I'm fighting, I feel nothing. I feel no pain.
Right.
Just high. I'll be high for 3 or 4 days after that.
Yep.
And then I'll get high from telling the story. That's why we talk about it so much.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely,
like 10 years later, you're still telling the story.
Absolutely.
Man, fucking Tony. Sean.
What's up, Tony? All right, you guys.
Dude, this is crazy, man.
We're coming up to 11:15 here. We thank you guys for being with us every week by week. Please remember to like, share, and follow. It's really important. When it comes to sharing, all you got to do is click the share button and post share public, and it'll pop up, and that drives up our algorithm by a mass amounts in a short period of time. So we appreciate you guys. We thank you guys for being here with us. We love you. We will talk to you soon. Until next week, man. Peace.